In order to remove the rear cabinet, I had to pull 6 screws. Actually, in mine there were only 3 screws in there. It looks like somebody either forgot to put the screws back in or neglected to, which is like really irritating because now I have to go run out and get different screws. There's a screw up here on the left, and then there's a screw up here in the middle, and then there's a screw on the top right, and also on the bottom there's a screw in the bottom left, and then inside the battery cover there's a screw there, and then there's a screw all the way on the bottom right. There's also a black wire with a connector, which I'm going to have to take off, and that runs to the back of the chassis here. And it looks like back on the back left hand side, it looks like there's a black and a white wire, which is coming from the antennas, which needs to be disconnected also. The connector that goes right here actually just basically pulls off. So I lay down the boombox face down, and it looks like there's 2 connectors that have to come off so I can get to the cassette mechanism. There's one right there, and there's one right there. These 2 connectors, they just pulled off, and you can only put them on one way, so you really can't make any mistakes. You have to take off the record level, which that's barely sliding at all. The tone for bass and treble, and the volume knobs. They gotta come out before I can remove this circuit board so that I can get at the cassette mechanism. I'm just using my little plastic pry tool, which I actually bought for laptop repair, to take these knobs off. That tool's not gonna get this here, so I'm gonna try to get it out with use the old teaspoon method. The chassis here is finally getting ready to come out. It was a lot more convoluted than I thought it would be. I got a fan thing on this, and it's got to come out like up like that, and basically there it is. And here's what it looks like after the chassis is removed. My next step is removing the dial scale. I think I'm going to have to do that in order to get to the cassette mechanism. After I did my last step, I have to remove, I think my final step in removing the cassette mechanism is removing these. There's 3 screws, 1, 2, and 1 down here, 3. They're kind of blue tinged. I think those have to come out. That's my next step. So I finally got the cassette mechanism free. It was after I removed the 3 screws. What I did is I lifted up on the rear end like that, and then lifted up on the left side, and then I kept playing around with it. I couldn't really get it out, and then I could see a screw holder was a plastic screw holder was blocking it, and then I kind of pulled back on it, and then there's a screw holder right there, and then it popped free. Okay, now the problem with this cassette mechanism is this: once you press down the stop button, it doesn't come back up. All the other buttons come up except for this one. And if I look at this thing, Here's a little piece of metal with a notch for a spring, and it looks like there's not a spring there. That explains why this stop mechanism isn't going back up. Looks like somebody had been in this unit before, and either the spring was broke or they messed around with the unit and never put the spring back in. So looks like I got to stop this cassette repair project here until I get a replacement spring, or I can get another parts donor, or use this boombox as a parts donor. Well, it looks like this unit has 4 different belts. There's your counter belt, and there's like a take-up rail belt. This is for the, I believe, fast forward, and there's your main belt, and this some kind of a auto stop belt, seems like. Looks like the first 2 belts are pretty easy to come off. You just pull them off. Same with this one here, and this one just pulls off. And this belt here, the main drive belt, I think you got to take these 3 off. These 3 screws off. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do that and see what happens. So it looks like all that's needed to take off the main drive belt is to remove this plate here, which is held in by 3 screws.